Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's intro to product management event, how to become a product manager. It's an industry workshop that we're running with some really great guest speakers today. I'm going to officially kick off the event in just a minute here, but before I do, I always just want to make sure that everybody in the audience can see me okay, everybody can hear me okay. I've enabled the emojis there, so you can give me some thumbs up reactions if you like. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And so in the bottom right corner of the screen, everyone should have a chat log. You are welcome to, chat with each other, chat with us throughout the entire presentation here, including the speakers. But we will be doing a Q&A session at the end of the event, specifically for the instructor and for the guest speaker today. So if you do have any questions throughout, just put them into the questions tab, and we'll do our best to answer the questions together as a group at the end. And I promise if we ignore them throughout the event, we're only doing it because we want to answer them with you guys at the end together. So there's also some polls in there. I dropped some polls in advance for everyone. And feel free to engage with those as you like throughout the presentation. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get this lined up so that we've got the presentation ready to go. But by the end of today's event, you're going to have heard from some awesome speakers. You're going to learn about the Product Management Bootcamp that we run through the University of Toronto. I'm going to share some pricing, promotion, and upcoming cohort information for that the bootcamp as well. And like I said, we'll do some Q&A, ask me anything at the end of the session here. So one thing I do like to mention is that this presentation will be fully recorded and sent out to everybody at the end of the event. So if you want to take notes, if you want to take screenshots, if you want to do anything, you're absolutely welcome to, but you certainly don't have to. You can relax, you can kind of sit back, and all of the details, including the slides with stats and all that kind of information, will be included in the recording and sent out to you after. So that's it. That's kind of my intro. I will go ahead and get this event started off here. All right. So I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Tyler Trapp. I'm the marketing events manager at CircuitStream. I'm actually coming in on my 3-year anniversary here, which is crazy. Time flies. I mean, I know everything during COVID kind of went really quickly anyways, but I still feel like I just started here, a few weeks ago, but it's coming up on 3 years this spring. I think it's in June. And before that, I worked in travel and tourism for about 10 or so years, in hotels and hospitality, which was a little bit different than technology education. We'll also have an amazing guest speaker joining us today, Max Beach. Max is a startup founder and previous product manager at companies like Yahoo and Revolut. He's going to be joining us on stage in a few minutes to share his tips and his advice for new product managers. But before I invite him up, I'm going to start off by sharing a little bit of an overview of CircuitStream and the product management industry within Canada. I'll start off with CircuitStream here. So CircuitStream began in 2015 through a network of developers, designers, and creators. And we are now a leading provider of technology learning in different spaces like AR, VR, game development, product management, and software development. We also partner with leading companies and leading educational institutions to offer courses and training to those looking to learn more about emerging technologies. And on the screen there, you can see some of our partners, university partners listed on the right, and then just a handful of our corporate partners listed on the left there. So why launch a career in product management? A product manager is an interdisciplinary position that collaborates with different departments within an organization to guarantee the success of a new product. Product managers have a dynamic and fulfilling career with opportunities to shape innovative products and have a measurable impact on a company's success. On screen, you can see some of the top reasons why people would choose to work as product managers. I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more insight on that from our speakers here today as well. Acquiring product management skills in Canada specifically positions individuals to excel in a variety of industries and contribute to economic growth. With a rapidly growing technology sector and thriving startup ecosystem in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Waterloo, product managers play a vital role in driving innovation and ensuring companies deliver products that meet market needs. According to LinkedIn, in Ontario alone, there are currently over 700 job postings for product management positions. And there's some companies at the bottom there that are hiring in that space. There are many different titles that product managers are hired for, including product strategists, growth product managers, product marketers, so on and so forth. The average salary for a product manager role in Canada is sitting at 109,000, according to Glassdoor. And that stat was from pulled from 2023, so very updated, very recent. And again, just in case anyone just popped in recently, this whole presentation is going to be recorded and sent out to everybody who's registered and who's in attendance here. So feel free to take notes if you like, but you don't have to. You can just kind of relax and wait for the recording to come through. Now, in regards to the actual product management bootcamp, the bootcamp is hands-on. It's 21-week, and it's both online and project-based. It has 5 hours of live class per week, 2.5 hours of technical biweekly career labs, and 10 hours of independent study. There are weekly assignments, in-class challenges, portfolio projects, and students complete a capstone project at the end of the bootcamp. The bootcamp is designed for those interested in learning the essential practices of product management, from strategic planning and feature development to agile execution. The program's comprehensive curriculum is designed to provide a full spectrum of understanding of the product life cycle, ensuring that you are adept in guiding products from their initial conception all the way to market dominance. Product management is a great career opportunity with lots of growth potential. This is why we've collaborated with the University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies to offer this hands-on 21-week bootcamp that will take you all the way from beginning to launching a career in product overall. So here to share a little bit more on that, I'd like to take a moment and invite our bootcamp instructor, Dennis, on stage. Dennis started his professional journey as an associate product manager at Riedel and later joined Grammarly as product manager in 2019. He currently leads and manages Grammarly's design system and accessibility as a product. And he also leads and manages our product management bootcamp. So welcome to the stage, Dennis. Oh, we can, there we go. Perfect.
Thanks, Tyler. Hey, everyone. Very excited to be here with you, and thanks for the very warm introduction. I won't take too much time from the rest of the Maxis presentation, because I'm sure this will be very exciting and educational. A few things that I wanted to say is that it is an exciting time for me to be partnering with CircuitStream and kicking off this exceptional product management course. I've done a few in the past with slightly different focuses. I feel like this one would go a lot more in depth and will give students an opportunity to do the capstone project and get into the shoes of what it feels like being in product management, with lots of collaboration and ideation and brainstorming. I think it's especially exciting for people who are thinking about switching into the tech and trying what it feels like being a PM, or already working in tech and want to explore what kind of impact they can have in an organization with a product mindset. I think those two types of personalities in the workplace will benefit the most and will learn the most. And yeah, very, very excited to meet all of you eventually. Learn about your ideas, learn about your aspirations for product management, and hopefully help you succeed with those. And with that being said, Tyler, back at you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Dennis. And I mentioned this before, but Dennis is going to come back at the end of this presentation today, and we're going to do an Ask Me Anything Q&A session. So if anybody has any questions about the course or about his career at Grammarly, or just anything for Dennis really overall, feel free to throw those into the questions tab, and then we will cycle back and take a look at those at the end of the event here for sure. So let me get my notes back up here. And now, in terms of the course outcomes for that bootcamp that we're chatting about here, the bootcamp graduates emerge with a comprehensive set of skills that prepare them for success. Through in-depth modules like Product Management Foundation, students gain a solid foundations of the roles and responsibilities, how they navigate product development stages, and how they use data to inform strategic decisions. Graduates are also educated on market insights and product strategy, feature ideation and development, agile execution and team dynamics, product positioning and growth, and data mastery and decision making. Students receive career development and support as well as they complete this bootcamp, and they get product management certification. Try not to stumble over my words too much today. Sorry, folks. Speaking of the career development support, normally this is where I would give a shout out and invite One Eye up on stage to share a little bit of information. But she's actually traveling this week when I was in San Francisco at the Game Developers Conference representing our company down there for our game development and game design boot camps that we run through the universities. So she's not here to join us for this session, but in her absence while she's at the event, I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about this information on her behalf. So our career labs teach students how to leverage technical and behavioral strengths, gain awareness of the digital ecosystem, create compelling portfolios, elevate digital presence, learn how to network effectively, and become interview ready for industry jobs. Our career and networking support really sets our programs apart from others that you may find out there. Every student has different objectives coming in, but for those looking for new jobs or those looking to improve their current positions, they find this aspect of the bootcamp incredibly helpful. And as a part of the career support, our boot camps also come with a student pitch day that happens towards the end of the program. A little screenshot there of some students presenting. Students have the opportunity to showcase their capstone projects to hiring and industry partners. We basically reach out to a network of our partners in advance, let them know that we are going to be running this event live with the students, and then they come in and they're able to kind of view the student projects, provide direct feedback, and also quite often they provide contracts and career opportunities for the students as well. So that is a little bit, I can see something on the side here. I'm in the technology sector for the last 15 years, mainly working in ERP and CRM, more on the functional side, and do not do any coding. Is this product management, a rewarding career transition for me? Yeah, Hassan, we'll dive into this a little bit more at the end. Actually, if you don't mind, Hassan, maybe just copy that question that you had there and put it in the questions tab at the bottom, and we can kind of loop back at that at the end. But we'll be able to share a little bit about the course and the coding aspects. But right off the bat here, I can kind of mention that the course is completely beginner friendly. So you don't have to have any experience with coding or anything like that to be able to move over to this. I don't know that there's a whole lot of coding in this one. Our software development camp and our game development camps have a ton of coding. But we can dive a little bit more into the actual course here with the instructor in a bit, like I said. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and officially invite today's guest speaker on stage. Max Beach is the founder of a startup company and aspires to have a material impact on the world around us by building innovative products that use data in new ways. He previously worked as a product manager at Revolut and Yahoo and has built projects including Political Outcomes Predictor, which is crazy. I want to hear a little bit more about that one, a university module advisor, and a new way to manage daily tasks. So welcome to the stage officially, Max.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tyler.
Of course. And I'm going to hop off here, guys. I'm going to let Max take over and present for a little bit, and then I'll hop back on after he's done there.
Cool. Can you see this in full screen? Oh, sorry, it's just gone one sec. Okay, great. I saw some thumbs up there. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me, Tyler. And it's really lovely to meet you all. I'm looking forward to chatting more at the end. Right, I'm going to take you back to the spring 2018, which is probably quite a long time ago for a lot of you in your journeys. For me, it certainly is. I was at university, students were just choosing their modules for the next year. I don't know how it works at universities that you've been to, but at ours, you get to choose the modules that you want to do for next year. And modules aren't all created equally, and some of them are much easier to do well at than others. And I kind of clocked this by my third year. And so I wanted to do something about it. So a friend of mine and myself did a series of freedom of information requests to the university, basically got a load of data to understand actually how well people were performing at these different modules, and just sort of quickly put together in a day this website called GradeHack. Still up there, the data's kind of out of date now because I've just sort of parked the project. But it got a lot of interest. I think there was about a third of the university population using it in just a matter of a week or two. And I think the dean wasn't too keen either. So I had a few calls asking for it to be taken down. I was more worried about my parents, but they were actually fine about it. They just kind of were more concerned about me not doing as much work as I should be. But yeah, we basically put these posters up all over saying like, don't get screwed over, go onto the website. And I think that was probably something to do with why they didn't like it. But yeah, we put it everywhere. But it was such a good experience, and we didn't make any money from it. It's like it had no sort of value to sell it anywhere, but it was such an invaluable experience for me, and not because it was like a kind of funny story, but because it shows me that I could take a product from 0 to 1, an idea which I just had. I was able to build like a scrappy MVP, which actually it was initially just an Excel file I sent around to people with the modules, and then I kind of created into this website. And then also it was actually like one of the few times I've still had in my career where I've truly been able to say I had a product which had amazing product market fit, because people really wanted it, and you just don't get that experience from a lot of things. And so it really showed me that the value of actually building things, and I really enjoyed it as well. And so that was certainly something that really sparked my interest in just building these kind of products. And so I wanted to do it more. So kind of fast forward a little bit, I graduated. I did do computer science at university. Although, yeah, sort of not everyone needs to, for sure. I did, and I kind of didn't know what to do. I hadn't applied for any roles, and I was working on this side project at the time. So I sort of jumped into that full time with someone I'd known for a long time, and enjoyed it a lot. Sort of got through a lot of sort of steps in the early stage of building a startup. Didn't quite reach product market fit, but we had some fun. This is us out in Las Vegas, and we basically went out there for the Consumer Electronics Show. Had a lot of fun. We didn't know that we'd meet our third co-founder here, which this guy didn't know our name. We didn't know his name, but I don't know if you can even read that. But yeah, we met some funny people in Vegas. So definitely recommend it, but not for 10 days like we were there for CES. Definitely way too long. But enjoyed it all the same. But the product really wasn't that special. This was essentially it. It was like these QR codes. This was like us in the hotel room, just like making them up. And really it just went to like this basic website, and it really didn't do much. It was like the idea was connecting like businesses and people, and we ended up just kind of going around to different trade stalls in CES and trying to just get them to use these little things. And it was such a rubbish product. We didn't reach product market fit, as I mentioned, but the learning process was really good, and it showed us that people were actually using these things, even though it was an awful product, and it really didn't have any technical innovation when it came to the MVP. But it set us on the right path that we could actually get feedback from these customers. So it was another really good learning experience, and just again showing how you can be scrappy and how it's important to be when you're starting up an idea, whether it's your own startup or whether you're building a feature for a company as a product manager. So after that, couldn't quite see where we could pivot. So I was looking around for jobs, and I came across, I thought I'll go onto Google, pretty cool place to work for. So I went onto there, and I just came across product management then. And so it was really quite late. So I just applied. I saw it fit in my skill set. So I just applied for as many as I possibly could, as many roles. And I was lucky to get an offer from Revolut, which, if you haven't heard of it, it's like a fintech based in the UK, but got offices in quite a few countries now. And it was a really good experience. I definitely hit the ground running. I joined as a junior product manager, which there's actually quite a few different names for sort of young product managers who are just starting their careers. One is junior product manager. Another is product associate. I think that was actually my official title. And there was also associate product manager. They can be quite different, but they can also be quite similar. The key differential that I've noticed is that Revolut, when I joined there, it was essentially what I'm going to class as a junior product manager. It basically was a product manager who hasn't had any direct experience before, but has like perhaps the skill set to do well, or they've done all right at the interview, and they're just kind of thrown in to the deep end. Maybe they get like some mentorship and support, but it's not that structured. And so you definitely kind of do have to learn on the job as quickly as you can. And so that was my experience at Revolut. It was pretty crazy. The company was really going quite quickly. It was very exciting to be part of it. I was managing the website, which was in a pretty dire state. It was still not in an amazing state when I left it, but it was better. And so to go through that experience was really good. You when you start, particularly these kind of startups, when you're in a new role as well, you don't know what everything is, whether you should follow everything or not. So you have to kind of bear that in mind. They had some lots of processes that were still being developed, so there was a lot still up for grabs and sort of trying to understand what we should be doing, but it was a great experience. One thing that was tough though is that we were still, even though it was about 2,000 people in the company when I was there, we were still meeting twice a week with the CEO and the CTO, which maybe doesn't sound too bad, but this is the CEO called Nick, and incredibly smart guy, but this is exactly how he would look at me in every meeting, just like, convince me that your idea isn't rubbish. And he was very effective, but boy was he scary, particularly for me, just sort of straight out of university without any real context of what is a good product manager or not. And I think this is one of the things which I wish I'd done a boot camp, because I really didn't know what good looked like. And so it was, I had no confidence. And so I go into these meetings, and if my product wasn't up to scratch, I wouldn't go into the meetings knowing the right things. And then if it wasn't up to scratch, then I would basically get sort of ripped apart, and fair enough, quite rightly so. But boy, was it scary. And I could have done a lot better had I had a little bit more understanding of what great looked like. So that was my experience at Revolut. I then moved to Yahoo, and this was a slightly different experience. So from before, where I was basically a junior product manager, product associate, whatever you want to call it, this was a different thing. So this was an associate product manager program. This one's more structured. It's typically like over 1.5 years or 2 years. You often rotate between different parts of the company. Yahoo, that they don't actually do that anymore, but they did that at the time. And you have sort of a lot more structured mentorship during it. Definitely, I still was speaking with APMs. They felt like they were getting thrown in at the deep end. And it really depends on where you get placed, because in the first year in particular, you typically don't get that much choice. So I could still see a lot of APMs who joined. If I hadn't had the Revolut experience, I'd have felt the same, where they didn't know what great looked like, and they struggled to, it took them some time, basically took them a year. But there is a lot more structure and a lot more sort of room to fail, unlike startups that don't have a proper program in place, and that there is a difference. So I kind of spent my first year working in the ads team, in this innovative ad format team, where we were working on some quite interesting projects, if I say so. Like, one was this project to try to launch a new ad format, and then there was another where we were essentially building, it seems quite primitive now with AI, but it was like this AI based solution that would try to predict the click-through rate of ad text and then suggest improvements. So quite interesting work for basically being sort of out of the blocks. And it was actually interesting and innovative enough that we could submit it for a patent, which I definitely recommend. If you have an opportunity to be a part of a project and submit it for a patent, then it's a really good experience. So that was my first year. I then rotated to Yahoo Finance, where I led their Yahoo Finance Android app, and then sort of more broadly later the strategy for both of their apps. And that was a brilliant experience, because I got to really own a product. And that's certainly something where I think if product management in general, particularly if you're lucky enough with the role you are, and APM programs are particularly good. APM is short for Associate Product Manager. They're particularly good at throwing you in the deep end because they expect you to be able to sort of land on your feet. But you have a lot of room to just to do things, and a lot of impact potential. And that's something that I really enjoyed with my second experience there. So that was kind of my time at Yahoo. I kind of stayed on in that role. So I spent 3 years at Yahoo in total. But I was itching to get back into the startup game. So that's what I've been doing since July 2023, and currently exploring a sort of knife sensor startup idea, which is a sort of hard tech one. But product management is brilliant. And I think it's, whether you're maybe interested in startups or maybe you're interested in product management, you see a lot of people that flip between the two. And so there's a lot of crossover if you are potentially interested in that down the road. I can definitely recommend it. So that's kind of my career journey, but I'd love to sort of share with you a few kind of insights that I've had. And the first is what a day-to-day looks like. So I think a lot of people ask that. I was very curious when I started, like, what does a day-to-day look like? Because you hear of so much of this sort of abstract stuff and it's really hard to know. And I think it does vary definitely between a junior product manager and a more senior one. So that's why I'm specifying a bit. But essentially what I'm trying to represent by this slideshow is that it really can be a lot of different things, and it varies on the specific role that you're doing, whether you're working for the type of company and then the area you're in, and whether you're more back-endy or more front-endy. But for me, it was a lot of these things, particularly the things that are in a slightly bigger fonts. So you do end up meeting with your team quite a lot, and so having some personal skills, or at least practicing those. I feel like I'm probably an introvert naturally, but I really learned to just become an extrovert, particularly in meetings. You have 30 minutes with someone who might be a software engineer and not really want to chat. And so it is such a good experience to learn how to just be really good at doing small talk for like 30 minutes and kind of coming up with new conversation and trying to make it not sound so bland. And so that is quite a big part of it. You're not necessarily their manager, but you are essentially sort of still supporting them. You might well be reviewing UX designs, maybe not so much in certain types of product management role. You might be more on like maybe the AI side or back end where you wouldn't be, but a lot of the times it's quite user facing products. So it might well be reviewing designs, planning, attending UXR sessions, might be just coordinating with stakeholders. There's quite a lot where you might not necessarily, in the odd role I had, I was actually selling to customers and I was meeting with external customers alongside our sales teams, but it might just be selling yourself to senior management or your ideas or trying to get buy-in. Different companies have different degrees of needing buy-in before you start a project. And then it might be reviewing data, being a bit of a data scientist. A lot of it is writing PRDs, which is product requirements documents, essentially documents which say, what should this product look like? And a ton of other things as well. I really enjoy the role, because it is so varied, and you can obviously tailor that slightly towards the kind of role you apply to, but also it's just a matter of jumping in and being ready to do a different thing each day, which I found really exciting. So that's kind of a day-to-day. And then in terms of like top tips out of that, there are a few things I'd love to just take this opportunity to highlight. I found, like, when explaining things, be hyperlogical. And to the extent where I remember an experience when I was explaining something in a meeting right at the start of Revolut, I kind of felt like, oh, these people are really smart. I kind of can just kind of skim through this, and I don't need to spend a lot of time going through each thing methodically. I can just kind of jump around to the key things. But I quickly learned that these people are extremely smart, but they got to deal with a lot. And if they see you jumping around, they're not going to understand. And they're also going to think less of you, because it is really important as a product manager to be, what I like to say, like hyperlogical. So just be extremely structured. And I don't know if you've done any teaching, but almost teach in the same way, explain in the same way you would teach to a kid, where you're just trying to be as structured and logical as you can. And even though like everyone is incredibly smart, they're dealing with so much information, they really need to just be able to process it as efficiently as possible. A little bit similar to that when documenting things, be very descriptive. I probably go a little bit overboard on this, but you're definitely going to get more buy-in and more trust if you are very clear and descriptive, because otherwise people are going to ask why and aren't necessarily going to believe what you say. Being an advocate for your team is actually quite underrated. So I had an experience where I was in a similar role to someone else who's sort of doing the same role in a different part of the company, and there was a point where the developers we were working with, they were at risk of being let go, and I kind of did what I thought was obvious and kind of explained the reason why I thought they should stay, and it turned out the other person didn't, and just didn't kind of clock that there was like maybe an opportunity for that or something. And so I think just any opportunity you have, be the advocate for your team. They'll probably love it, but it's an important part of their job, and you might not have a team if you don't. So any chance you get, be that person. And then for sure have a strong bias towards being metrics driven. Like, there are loads of things I can mention here, but that's such an important one. And you'll certainly get a lot of trust and buy-in. And that's something as a junior PM you really need. And showing that you're looking at the metrics and you're making decisions based on those is going to help with that so much, because a lot of people don't. And then a few things like specific to interviewing, I'd love to call out as well, or as you just kind of go through that application process. The first is I definitely recommend building and perfecting your resume, looking at other comparisons. I'm sure the bootcamp would be a really fantastic resource for doing this as well. But just doing that, maybe comparing with others, and there's often opportunities for it. Building, what I mean by that is, if your resume isn't where you'd like it to be, then do a side project. Do something. Doesn't need to be a role that you apply to. Side projects are a fantastic resource. And going back to my experience building that grade comparison website, GradeHack, that was all so useful because I could use it in my interviews. Most specifically, I could use it, reference it as a example in many different ways. But I spoke to an interviewer after when I joined the company, and they said they remembered that because it was a memorable story. And that's often something that people, I think, overlook. So build a resume if you don't have it, and then perfect it, compare it with others. Be extremely careful about no spelling errors, no grammatical errors, having it nicely laid out. These kind of things are a reflection of what your product requirements documents, your PRDs, will look like in the future. And that's a really important part. So if you can't get across clearly and logically what you're trying to convey, if you can't do it with your own resume, you're not going to be able to do it with some feature. So that's really important. I think it's really valuable to learn what outstanding looks like. And so bootcamps are an really effective way of doing this. I didn't do a product management bootcamp, but and I kind of got shown up for it when I started at Revolut, where I had to learn very quickly and I had to make mistakes, and I couldn't hit the ground running in the way that I'd have liked to. And it took me probably the first 4 or 5 months before I really felt comfortable. And you're always going to have that onboarding time, but you can feel a lot more confident and feel like you can back up your decisions if you know what outstanding looks like. Practice for sure your actual interviews. So PM books will tell you like structures of how to answer questions, but resources like there's one I use called Stellar Peers, where you can kind of speak with other people and practice interviews, are a great way of doing that as well. Apply early. Certain roles, quite a few roles, but certainly a lot of associate product manager program roles, they'll apply on a rolling basis. So when they might not say they have a quota, but a lot of them do. And so when they just fill the roles, then they'll just stop. So definitely apply early, and also reply quickly. Whenever you have an interviewer, a recruiter send you an email, try and reply within 5 minutes, which might sound crazy, but that they get very little chance to really understand themselves, how you are, and it might well help them advocate for you in the future if they can see that, yeah, you're really on top of things. And then finally, during interviews, when you're thinking of actual products, if you get asked a product question, I'm sure you will at some point, then try and think big and then bigger. Really, really kind of push yourself to go for not sort of outlandish ideas, but really bold ideas, which you might not exactly know how they would be built. But if they're pushing the envelope a bit, those are what's remembered by you. Try and think in slightly different ways and come with ideas that the interviewer might not have heard before, because they'll probably ask the same question quite a few times. Makes it easier for them to compare between interviews. So thinking of a different idea which makes you remember them is so important. Makes them remember you, sorry. And that's really it. So I just want to finish with 2 things, a little bit corny, but I found to be incredibly true. The first is definitely sort of follow your passion. Don't follow the crowd. I think you're probably already doing that by choosing product management, because It is a very fast-growing role in terms of interest and opportunities, but particularly, for example, in the UK, it's still not that well known. But boy, is it a fantastic opportunity from the experience you can get doing it. The salary is very good as well. So it's a great opportunity to do that. So I would certainly recommend it if you're at all interested. And then when you're actually applying to jobs, I would set your goals ridiculously high, as James Cameron says, because even if you don't quite make that top tier company that you want to, you're probably going to land a lot lower. And I've certainly seen it from other people much smarter than me, where they haven't done that, and so they've landed at what I'm sure is still a great company, but it maybe isn't where they could have been if they'd just sort of pushed themselves. So yeah, that's it from me. I'll pass it back to Tyler. And yeah, I'm very welcome any questions once we've wrapped up everything at the end, if you have any.
Amazing. Just make sure before I go here, you can hear me again. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Max. That was unbelievable. And like I said at the beginning here, guys, so we're going to do a Q&A session in just a couple minutes. So if anybody has any questions for Dennis or for Max here, we're going to cycle back and we can kind of cover all of those here in just a minute. I'm going to put my presentation back up here if I can. Here we go. And I'll make that screen big. There we go. All right. So yeah, before we jump into the Q&A session here with the two amazing speakers, I'm just going to take a moment and share the upcoming cohort information, the pricing information, all that kind of fun stuff, if that is okay with everyone. And just a quick shout out too, if anybody just hopped in during the presentation there, this whole session is recorded. I know I mentioned it at the beginning a couple times, but for anybody who's newly joined in the last 15, 20 minutes or so, this whole session will be recorded and you will get a copy afterwards. So if you missed any of the beginning part, or if you just kind of want to sit back and relax, and this information will be recorded and sent to you, so you don't have to write it down, is what I mean. So I'll start off with the pricing information for everyone. So the bootcamp itself is $10,500. Of course, if anybody was looking to do this, the people can pay up front for it if they decide. But we do also have payment plans available. So I think there was a question there about scholarship options and things, which we'll get to in a minute. But in terms of what we have available for the course for payment plans, there are 6, 12, and 24-month period plans. So you certainly don't have to pay for the courses up front if you are looking to join. And then in addition to that, we're actually running a 15% promotion for anyone who's registered for this event here today. So if you're looking to sign up for one of these courses, the upcoming courses, just make sure that you do mention that you attended the session today, and we'll add the 15% off for you. And then you can see the two price points there on screen. So the regular price, the $10,500 at the top, and then the event registrant discounted price is in the yellow a little bit below it there. So, and then in terms of the upcoming start dates, we typically run these every few months. But the cohorts that we have on the books coming up here, the next one starts on April 9th and runs through to August 29th. And then the following one, I don't think we have the actual specific dates locked in yet, but it will run starting in September of 2024 and should go through to about May of 2025. So, and that promotion itself that I just mentioned would be available for both of these date ranges. So if you weren't available to register for the April 9th session, as long as you did it before the cutoff, let me go back and see what the cutoff was there. The cutoff is April 5th. So as long as you register by April 5th for either of these two dates, you would get the 15% off there. So if you have any questions about that or about anything along those lines, you can just reach out to our team here. This is all of the contact information for us. This is the direct university line for the course. That is the email, the UFTSCS email. And then in terms of the Product Management Bootcamp itself, if you scan this QR code on the screen, it'll take you right to the course page. You can request a course syllabus. You can take a closer look at all the details there. But yeah, this is the easiest way to kind of get a hold of us if you have any questions about the courses or about kind of the upcoming start dates, pricing, any of that stuff. So without further ado, I will now go ahead and invite both of the speakers back up on stage here, and we can dive into a little bit of an AMA Ask Me Anything Q&A session here. So I'll go ahead and actually I'll close this screen off, and then I'll just make our screens a little bigger as we come up here. And I'm going to move, I just saw another question come up in the chat. I'm going to move it over to the questions tab. Whoops. Just to prepare it for that. So welcome back. Welcome back, gentlemen. Let me put this one in here. There we go. So let's just start at the bottom of this list, and then between the three of us, we'll try and answer the questions. If it's anything too detailed about product management, I'm going to pass the torch over to you guys there. But yeah, if it's course specific, I can certainly go over that information as well. So now this was the one we had at the beginning. I'm in the technology sector for the last 15 years. Wondering if it'd be a rewarding career movement to kind of move over to product management. I saw that Tamara put a really detailed descriptive answer in the chat for this one. But just in case anybody missed it, I'm just going to quickly read a couple of the key points from that. So product managers act as a bridge between technical and non-technical teams. If you have a functional background, you're skilled at translating between these groups, which is a core part of a product manager role. If you're passionate about the idea of creating a strategic impact on a company's product, being involved in the product vision, strategy, the roadmap, aligning product goals with business objectives, you'll definitely find something like product management rewarding. So that was an amazing answer. Thank you, Tam, for doing that while I was presenting, or while we were presenting there. Just wanted to make sure I kind of highlighted that, because that was a really good response to that one. So, all right, what hard skills do you recommend having prior to starting the boot camp? Or can you start the boot camp at True Ground Zero? So you can start at True Ground Zero. I can see you nodding there a little bit too, Dennis. I'll let you kind of weigh in on this if you like. But yeah, you can absolutely start at Ground Zero. The thing I would normally say to somebody is just prepare yourself for what you're going to learn. Boot camp start at a beginner level, but they hit advanced topics pretty quickly as you kind of progress through. So the best thing to do is take a good look at the syllabus in advance. Just have a good understanding of the things you are going to learn, and just know that you're going to be moving at kind of an accelerated pace versus like a 2-year course if you were doing something like that. But I see you nodding there, Dennis. Is that are you in agreement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is absolutely possible to have this to be your first product management experience, and then build on top of that. I think anybody coming with any experience in the tech industry will be a little bit more comfortable, of course. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of things you can just learn by the research and on at the course. I think what our plan is generally to simulate the environment that product managers will be working at a company, where we'll give you some problem to solve. You'll be trying to brainstorm. Well, first of all, like define the solution, brainstorm the ideas, test them, validate them, and then hopefully ship in some way or the other. So I wouldn't be scared by not having any previous, especially hard skills. If the skill is there is an environment for requirement for the skill, I would say it's being open to learning. So have your growth mindset ready, and have communication skills ready to show up and talk to other students and learn from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if anything, having no experience going into a boot camp, it's boot camps do a really good job of kind of providing the hands-on experience, like you said. And to Max's point earlier, it might, he might have been even a little bit more prepared going into his first position at Revolut if he'd had a little bit of the hands-on side of it versus just the technical kind of education side. So cool, awesome. Well, thank you, Dennis. Let me jump into the next one. This one I can probably answer pretty quickly. Are there any possible scholarships for anyone willing to take the program without so much financial capacity to do so? So that's just the information I shared there a little bit before. We don't have any scholarships in place for this course as it currently stands, but we do from time to time run different types of promotions. Like we have the event promotion with 15% off today that's available, and we also have the payment plans, so you can pay for it over like up to a 24-month period. So if you have any other questions about that, the best thing you could do is just reach out to the admissions team using the contact details that I provided just a few minutes ago. They can help you out. They can give you a good understanding of kind of what payments would look like too. And then if, as long as it aligns and it's something realistic for you to consider, then you can kind of take it from there. But yeah, just reach out to the admissions team. They can provide extra details in that area for you as well. Now, this question is for Max. How do you keep up with the industry trends and best practices?
There we go. Yeah, I can definitely have a go at that. I'm sure Dennis has some great ones as well. There's some good newsletters you can subscribe to. I subscribe to Lenny's newsletter. Actually, there's a free version. You can pay for one where he gives you more. I'm pretty bad, so I haven't done that. But we did get a free subscription through the Yahoo APM program, which was cool. So I did get that in its full glory for a little bit. And that was really useful. It's kind of basically it's a range of different topics, whether it's like current industry stuff or whether it's just best practices, often hearing from other product managers, which is really nice. There's obviously loads of just general info on YouTube. But then in terms of other things to keep up to date with stuff, there's quite a new tech website called Semaphore. I'll put it in the chat again, which is quite interesting for a slightly more in-depth sort of information on tech in general. Other pages like The Verge, TechCrunch, I'll also look at. But yeah, if you want PM stuff, probably the best thing are newsletters or podcasts. Podcasts, I probably don't have any specifically I'd recommend, other than like generally for, it's a little bit more startup-y, but I do love the content that YC puts out. That's Y Combinator. Yeah, I don't know. Dennis, do you have anything to add to that?
I would only upvote Lanny's. That's been my go-to for many things. I think he also does a good job highlighting some other resources, and there's just things in YouTube. I think Shreyas on YouTube is doing a really good job breaking down some more technical PM resources. So yeah, go start with Lenny. There's a ton to dig into.
Absolutely. And I'll plug it too. If these little networking events that we run through Circuit Stream are also great areas to kind of meet other people too. So, all right. Oh, and one thing I did want to mention, I just got a note from the team on the back end here. So we do have a couple courses that run a little bit longer than other ones that we offer through the universities. I mentioned 3, 12, and 24-month payment plans. For this course, it's actually 3, 6, and 12-month payment plans that would be available. Just wanted to make sure I corrected that and provided everybody with the proper information there. But again, just reach out to the admissions team if you have any questions for that. Okay. When people reach out to you out of the blue for networking coffee chats, what factors influence you whether you respond? This is a good question. Has there been someone or a message that impressed you in a cold reach out? I can let you both kind of touch in on that one if you like. Whoever answers first.
Yeah, I could go. From my side, like I feel bad because I don't always just respond, just because so at certain points, like particularly when I was a product manager around like APM interview times, you do get just a ton. So don't take it personally if you don't get a reply. And if you're keen to do it, just send a lot. And some might even be happy with referrals as well. And obviously an initial like coffee chat is a great way of starting there. Sort of side note, I found referrals can sometimes help a bit, sometimes can't help, don't help at all. So don't like overly stress about them, but occasionally they might make a small difference about making sure your resume gets seen a little bit earlier is probably like the extent to how they impact things. Yeah, I think in terms of what I've seen that works, for sure, if you like pull something out so you've shown that you've like read into them, ideally beyond a bit of the LinkedIn profile. So if you found them somewhere else and they've mentioned something like that, then that's obviously something that's kind of interesting. And then also just the way you word it, if you kind of show that you want to learn from them and want to hear about their story, people love talking about themselves. And so that's a really nice way where you can play into that a little bit.
Yeah, I would also just again emphasize that never take it personally, because I think depending on where people are, even during their week, like being overwhelmed at work or maybe having extra time, they may or may not respond, and that's totally okay. I know it can be daunting when you send a lot of messages and not everybody replies, but work and life happens. I would also say that it's great to be building those relationships systematically, not just when you need a role. Like I found it very hard to just refer someone who reached out to me on LinkedIn once and said that they will be a good fit for the profile without even ever seeing that person in person or talking to them. So one thing that I try to do if I ever find a profile or come across a piece of content from somebody that I appreciate, as I consume that content, I note my questions or maybe some reflections that are relevant to my experience, and I just follow up with those people and say, hey, I just listened to your podcast. I really like the way you handle accessibility or design system. We're actually doing the same thing here, at my company. I just thought I would share it with you, and that's it, and then follow up again and again. And I think as you build those relationships and you nurture your connections and communication with people, that goes a long way. And then when opportunity comes up, they will actually remember about you, more likely, and they may be the ones to reach out and say, hey, you're actually building this new team that is focusing on this project and you seem like a great fit. Why don't you join us? And I think as you will be in the boot camp or even in the communities like the Circuit Stream is creating, you can be creating those relationships with other students, and that will go a long way as well, because every one of them will go on to build their career and have their own journey, and eventually it may overlap with yours.
Absolutely. Yeah, great advice from both you guys. Thank you. Okay, let's do. Okay, this one's another one that's labeled to Max. I'm sure you can both answer. Thanks so much for the great presentation. Looking back on your career path, is there anything you would drastically change or any regrets that you have?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's definitely lots, but if I had to pull out two, the first one would be what I mentioned earlier. Like, I wish I'd gone into product management with a little bit more preparation. I did a lot of preparation for interviews and kind of what I mentioned earlier with the top tips around that. But I did a lot, and I kind of expected that I'd be able to, because I did well at the interviews eventually. It definitely took me a long time to get there. I floundered very many, but once I got to actually sort of getting some success in them, I felt like that was kind of all I needed. But interviews are extremely different to actually day-to-day product management, and very occasionally there are things that I hark back and think, oh yeah, like I'll kind of do that in the same way I did an interview, but almost sort of 99% of the time, it is a very different experience. And so you have to be ready to actually have to understand how to be a product manager day to day. And so the skill set underlying, yes, there's overlap. Like, people who are good at interviews are probably going to be good as a product manager, but the actual experience of having to do that and knowing how to be successful is different. So doing something like a boot camp or another way of getting experience is, I think, really important. And then the other element is when I was doing my first startup, I really struggled to know how to do well at it. And actually kind of, I guess, in a similar way to the first challenge I had, I just made so many mistakes when I was first doing a startup, and I'm still making a ton now, but I kind of look back and cringe at a lot of the things I did or didn't do. And I wish I'd come across Y Combinator Startup School earlier. So if anyone's thinking of starting a company, it's basically at its crux, it's a collection of free YouTube videos and podcasts where they just share tips and insights, but it's a little bit structured if you actually do the actual YC Startup School, as it's called. And it's just such a good approach, because they have quite a unique way when you're trying to succeed at a startup of prioritizing things, and you hear a lot of noise from a lot of different sources. And I think Y Combinator's really nailed it in terms of focusing on what's important when building a startup. So I wish I'd come across that resource earlier as well.
Amazing. And Dennis, if you want to weigh in on any of that as well, you're absolutely welcome to.
I mean, I think the biggest regret is not investing in NVIDIA a couple of years ago, I guess, at this point, now that they've taken off. But I think that all is perfect. And I would only repeat the networking part of it, and not just for the job's sake. I think you can, as you go about building your career, you can be reaching out to other people and finding mentors or just peers who are struggling to do the same things. And it's going to sound super cliche, but sometimes somebody message you an idea or a thought that they just happen to have, or the experience they just had, and this solves half of your problems immediately, because they just share the solution that they worked through for an entire quarter. So don't take your networking for granted. Invest in it and nurture those connections too.
Amazing. Well, thank you again to both of you for the responses there. Jump into the next one here. Can a product designer leverage on transferable skills to help pivot to a PM role?
I can actually take this one because my career started with the user experience research, which was in a way, a part of the design org, and I worked with a lot of designers. I would say like 110%. I think the biggest aspects of product design role is being empathetic towards the user and building something that actually helps the user in validating those ideas. And if anything, this is a big part, if not half of the work that PMs do. And that's why PMs and product designers partner very closely. They bring different experience to the table. For instance, product designers may not be looking at data as much, although they can also do that, or they may not be thinking through the monetization aspect, but they can also do that. So I think as a product designer, you are more likely to succeed in something that is a front end driven or more front end focused, like Max mentioned earlier in his presentation, where like you could be working on a user facing interface of the product, or maybe even some marketing aspects of that, the end user experience on the mobile app, whatever it is. It may be a little bit hard to transfer from a product design into PM for more technical roles, especially, if you're working with some backend services, APIs, or modern day hype of large language models, but it's also possible. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest asset of being a product designer is having a very user focused, solution driven mindset, and that goes a long way in any role.
So yeah, so yes, I guess the short answer is yes to
Yes,
that one for
the
sure.
answer
But
is
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
just add to that as well that Tamara, who's on the call, she's like essentially done this extremely well, and is a really good example of how effective you can be. And I think a lot of people, when you sort of work on and be a product manager for a bit, you start to be known for a sort of specialty where you're particularly good at. And as Dennis said, you might be a bit more focused on the back end or front end or whatever. And being able to be extremely good at design and being able to be just provide very helpful insights when you're reviewing designs, when you're thinking up how a product should work, is incredibly valuable. So yeah, it's, I think, one of the top like skills that would be really useful to enter with. But equally, if you don't have it, then most people don't, or certainly like from the resumes that I reviewed, like most people don't. But if you have it, it's such a nice bonus.
absolutely. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you both for the answers on that one. Now, the next one, speaking of Tamara, she got ahead of this one and answered it, but I'm still just going to shout it out. I can't put it up on the screen when we've already answered it, but the question is, how does our bootcamp compare to other boot camps that are kind of out on the market? And Tamara's response is that ours is more of a career transitioning bootcamp versus a short upskilling course. What makes our bootcamp a little bit more unique is to teach the core skills of product management, but we focus heavily on the career preparation as well. You get a dedicated career coach to help you build up, prepare for your product management interviews, and more importantly, connect you to opportunities as well. So, and that's even why, because we have that focus in our bootcamp, that's why Max took a good chunk of time during his presentation today to kind of speak to the importance of going through the interview process. And I mean, Max hasn't taken our boot camp, and he's not directly connected that way, but understands the importance of going through that process and having hands-on experience, but even more importantly, having things like career coaching and a little bit of guidance going through that is always nice. Amazing. It's great support that you can have. So hopefully that sums up the answer there. That's to the question that Fanny had put through. But I was just kind of reading off what Tamara had said. So let's see. What is the annual salary expectation for a junior PM? What are the typical day-to-day responsibilities of a junior PM? So the salary probably can vary quite a bit from company to company, whether you're working for a startup or working for a large corporation. In a junior role, you're probably not going to be hitting, high salaries the same way you would after you get a little bit of experience and you move more into senior roles. I know in terms of typical day-to-day responsibilities, I think Max shared like a pretty good slide there, kind of on what he works on. But with all that said, maybe I'll let either or both of you guys kind of weigh in on that if you're comfortable with it as well.
Yeah, I think for salary as well, I do not have an answer. I think there are resources like Glassdoor and Levels FYI, and then I believe, especially the product BC community, somebody put together a spreadsheet that people can contribute their salaries either anonymously or otherwise. So there, if you go on the vast lands of the internet, you'll find something there, and I think that can give you an insight. The caveat I would say is, I think early in your career, your experience and what you get to do on the job will be a bigger, much better investment with stronger return on in that investment, rather than going for a number itself. Easier said than done, of course. Everybody has to pay, for groceries and rent. But if you're choosing in between things where, one, you'll be more niche and you'll be working on a very specific project but with a higher salary, versus something where the salary is maybe like 5 to 10% lower but a very wide exposure of different teams, my personal recommendation and my personal I guess guidance would be like, try to go for that one that is broader, because that's how you are going to learn what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and what are the skills that you can nurture to later on, increase what your earning potential. But what Max said about the day to day, I can only confirm that. I think there is there's a high diversity of activities, from being in the meetings and talking about different things in those meetings, but also having some heads down work on writing documents that explain and communicate the strategy or the vision or just the project scope.
And and in the presentation here too, the whole presentation is recorded and sent out. So for additional information there as well, if you just kind of scroll back to Max's part where he shared the slide and kind of went over all the responsibilities and everything, that'll just kind of add to these points here. So awesome. Okay, let me go up. We've got a few more here. What is the average class size, and what percentage of the class gain employment as product managers? Do you assist with job search post graduation? Is tax charged for this bootcamp? So a few questions here. So the average class size, I believe we try and cap the class sizes somewhere between about 15 to 25 students. I know that we try not to make them too large, and just make sure that there's a little bit of connectivity between the instructor and the students, which can be lost if the classes get too large. So in terms of average class size, I believe that's kind of the numbers that we stick with. In terms of percentage of class gain employment as product managers, what we can do is we can kind of provide feedback from some of our other boot camps. The Product Management Bootcamp and our Software Development Bootcamp are newer courses that are available through the universities. So we don't have as many details or stats available quite yet. Have to let the courses kind of run through the universities for a year or two before we're able to kind of provide those statistics. But we can certainly provide you statistics from our other courses that have gone through the exact same venue at the universities, like game development and game design, our XR courses, whatever the case may be. So Bonnie, with that, if you reach out to our team, we can provide more details. I don't have all the stats and details available for all of our courses just on hand here right now, but we certainly have that information available for the courses that have been available through the universities for over a year. So just reach out to the team here. We can provide more. And then in terms of tax charged on the boot camp, I don't want to say for sure. I'd say the best thing to do would be connect with the admissions person for that as well. They can take a look. It's probably dependent on where you're purchasing the course from as well. If you're a Canadian citizen, if you're not a Canadian citizen. So just reach out to the team, Bonnie. They can give you more detailed information on the taxes. They can provide you with some examples of percentage of employment rates from previous courses. Off the top of my head, I believe it was in the low to mid 90s in terms of people from the 2023 game development and design boot camps who achieved deployment within a certain amount of time. So we'll give you those stats if you want them. Just reach out to us and let us know. Sorry, I don't have more of that readily available for this presentation here right now. But so let me jump into the next one here. What are the differences and similarities between product manager and project manager?
I'd be keen to learn Dennis's feedback to this, because I think it probably varies quite a lot. But from my experience in Yahoo and Revolut, other than the two letters, there's a lot of difference in them. So project manager I've seen is like it's a full-time role, but in terms of the scope of different things you're doing, it's a lot more narrow. You're given a project, which is essentially, normally it's kind of like instead of just like one feature you might build, it's maybe like a wider scope thing. So if an analogy of my working on the Yahoo Finance app, instead of working on a certain specific feature, if we were doing like a redesign, for example, the project manager would be tasked with ensuring the redesign sort of was successful across all of the platforms and all of the features. So in that way, it's often slightly higher level. But from my perspective, it is way less exciting because you're not like tasked with actually coming up with ideas or kind of being in the nitty gritty of actually sort of designing and building these things. You're essentially sort of organizing and planning and making sure that the different stakeholders actually come together and deliver when they should be delivering. And you often have to do this as a product manager because you may well not be working with a project manager almost all of the time. You're not, and it's really only on the bigger projects that you might touch one at all, like if one's even employed by your company, depends on the size of it. But you'll be doing this anyway as a product manager, so it's just an element. But for me, like product management, it might sound similar, but it's so much more exciting because you just get to be a part of the whole product life cycle, not just actually making sure that things are delivered at the right times. But yeah, curious, like, is that your experience, Dennis? Maybe it's a bit different.
Yeah, no, I think it's I can agree with most of the things you said. I think the one way I would summarize it is that project management is a fraction of responsibilities that product manager can have. I think like at our company early on, we had no project and program managers. So about 20% of the time that PM product manager would spend in a full-time role would be dedicated to project management duties. And that included scoping out the project, figuring out the dates that you deliver them on, following up with all the stakeholders to ensure that this is actually happening. And I personally, I'm a very administrative person that likes doing it. So to me, that was something that I found some fun in, and actually the distraction from a more ambiguous and potentially harder things to do. But I would say this is one way. This doesn't help you grow as a product manager really, because the value of the product management role is answering what and why. And I think in a project manager role, you just deliver like when and how. And really, like it's a lot easier when you know the answers to why. But if you don't have those, there is going to be no project to deliver. Which is not to say that the one role is better than the other. I think there are like both careers to have in both. It's just the type of a person you are and what you like to do more. I personally found to be more exciting to be like figuring out the why of what we're doing, and maybe here and there doing a little bit of a project management just to keep my skills sharp, I guess.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's great. Thank you both for the answers there. We've got two more questions here. Besides becoming a founder, what are some exit opportunities as a product manager?
It's an interesting question because, I haven't heard it before. And I think that's probably because a lot of people will do it for their whole careers, and there's a lot of opportunity to do that. I kind of see that there's two paths you can take as you progress. One is you can kind of continue down the individual contributor route and essentially be in charge of larger scope projects, but essentially remain slightly closer to the actual execution. And then the other route you can go down is the managerial route and sort of switch to managing other product managers. And I think a lot of that is going to vary depending on what you're interested in. There are definitely plenty of opportunities with both, but I don't think there's necessarily needs to be an exit, because I think you can, develop and stretch yourself in these different ways. And then what I also love about the role is that you can really enter like any industry, and they need someone like this. They may not even call it a product manager, but they do need these people. And so you get to just jump into so many different industries and maybe find one that you're passionate about for other reasons, and then jump into that. I know like plenty of APMs who've left the Yahoo program have done that. Some have gone to Grammarly as well. So you can really jump into areas you're interested in. So I think it keeps it really fresh, and there are lots of opportunities to develop. But yeah, a lot of people do exit and swap here and there to become a founder, and then maybe swap back. I don't know if you have anything to add, Dennis.
Yeah, and I've seen actually people start with the founding experience, and I think Max's story is a great example of that, where while you're creating opportunities for yourself, maybe somebody is not yet ready to give you a role at a company for like a formal PM role. So you're like in Max's case, he created he found a problem, he found the solution, and created a product for that. So I wouldn't say that becoming a founder is an exit. It could be as well your entry point into that, and depending on, like, I think it would be, I'm going to sound like a PM right now, but we need to define, the metrics for what the successful exit looks like, and if it's a financial reward, there are ways to have it in a typical company size by leading the product team or taking on a lot more ambiguity. If it's flexibility, maybe the startup is a better way. Like it's all sorts of things. So I wouldn't necessarily think of it as like just the niche exit for owning everything, because you could be managing a team and it could be a very rewarding experience. So you could be working on a very ambiguous project. There are titles like staff or principal product manager, but still those people do not manage individuals. They just manage very ambiguous projects, and that's one area for growth.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you again for both answering that one there. And then I think this might be this looks like this is the last one we've got on the list here. What were your proudest achievements as product manager and why? And this will be to both of you guys. I'll start with, who do I pick on for? I'll pick on Max first.
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead.
fine. It's funny, it's not the one that is like the largest scope or the one that like got seen by the most people in the company or whatever, but it's one that I worked on actually with Tamara, because we work closely together at Yahoo, and it was one that took like 6 months. But so just going on to Dennis's point again, there was so much ambiguity, and essentially we kind of came up with this hypothesis that people used our product in sort of 3 different ways, and one of them was trying to discover new stock quotes, essentially, but there was a really poor way of doing that in the app, and there was no kind of user journey to help people to do that. And so essentially from scratch, we were able to build like this whole new experience. It kind of was a whole new tab, so it was quite central within the product, and we could really form like, what would this UI look like? We didn't really see any great experiences from other products, so we came up with some quite radical different sort of ways of disseminating the information, of presenting it to the user, and it really was quite varied. And we went through this whole process, really from just structuring like what information would work well together, how do people discover new stocks or other types of security to invest in, right through to the actual design and engineering, getting feedback. That was such a rewarding experience. She's also just a fantastic person to work with, so that made it so much better. But it was such a fun, fulfilling experience. And then we got to see the user feedback, which was just like ridiculously like so much better than we expected, and so much better compared to any other product feature we'd released recently. And then we got to like make an improvement on it and release a second version, which was just so fun. And so being able to do those cycles, get customer feedback, and then iterate on it was just so rewarding. But it was really the ambiguity and the creativity that we could have, which was just really exciting. So I definitely resonate with Dennis's point there.
Yeah, I think the 2 things that always made things like something that I would be proud of is how much ambiguity was there to solve the problem, and also how the collaboration happened on the team. My story is a little bit more personal. As some of you may know, actually, Grammarly is a Ukrainian company, and all the founders of the company are from Ukraine. And I was born there as well. And when we moved here, and in 2020, 2022, when the Russian invasion of Ukraine happened, we realized that a lot of our teammates were still back home. And we realized that our mission of improving lives by improving communication quickly transformed into something that's, you are saving lives by improving communication, because people were not communicating properly about what's happening, how the news were shared, and what was the impact. So we worked for about 2 weeks after February 24th to create a campaign both within the product and on our marketing materials to highlight how to explain the events, what words to use, so that the media and people just commenting on it online would share the right terms, would explain it in the right way, and would not discriminate or insult someone. And for me, that was the proudest moment of my career, mainly because the people that I worked with, some of them were still back in Ukraine, hiding in the shelters, but still writing code or creating designs. And we were coordinating almost 24/7 to launch that campaign. And ever since then, I don't think there have been an equal impact of the project that I worked at, although there were some nice ones after that.
Amazing. Thank you both for sharing those stories too. And for yours, Max, I'm sure if I think Tam had to hop off right before you gave her a great shout out there, but she'd probably appreciate that if she was still in the room. She'll see it in the recording later. But yeah, thank you for sharing on those. And we had one more question pop in here while we were chatting. So sorry if this question was already tackled. Given how incredibly competitive the talent pool is right now, how does the program prepare newbie PMs for their very first PM role? Do you want to tackle that one, Dennis?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would, as a PM, I would look at two different personas here. One is somebody maybe transferring within the company or already in tech industry who wants to switch to the product role. And the second one would be somebody who's completely new and looking to break into the industry. I mean, obviously, even those two personas would be competing, but they would be probably starting in different places and having different opportunities. As somebody who is switching within the team or between the companies, I think your previous experiences is already an asset, but the course and the bootcamp itself will help you connect and explain what you did in the past and how that will have an impact in a PM role, and kind of even structure with it. Hopefully that will help you structure within your head of like some things you've done in the past and how you can level it up and take on the PM duties. So you're kind of will be doing both jobs even better. And hopefully that helps you pitch your case on, maybe taking on more responsibility at a project that you're working on, or helping out an existing PM as the team grows so that they notice you and help you get promoted, or taking more responsibility. And I believe that would be probably the biggest way to stand out as a newbie, and just surprise people that you will know all the ins and outs of product management craft by proper terms, proper resources, and maybe even some proper processes and ways of communicating. If you're completely new and you're breaking in, I think I would guess that capstone project can be a great anchor for you to use and leverage. Because one thing people say, oh, as an engineer, I can put my code on the GitHub and people will read it and understand if I'm a good engineer or not. As a designer, I can publish my designs on Behance or other resource and people can judge me. As a PM, you write very sensitive documents with data that you cannot just put online to be like, look how great it is. But you can have a project that is the end result of all your research, validation, testing, and communication with the user. And if you use that capstone as an opportunity to do that, I think this just creates an anchor in your resume or profile against people who don't have that. And hopefully the bootcamp and with our help, you'll be able to structure and package it so that it's stands out, and is easy to understand and communicate to the potential employer.
Absolutely. And we offer, I touched on this a little bit earlier, and I don't know, I know you said, sorry if this was already tackled, you might have come in a little bit later in the presentation. We're going to send a full recording to you either way, so double check. But we touched on what was I going to say there? How incredibly competitive the talent pool is right now. Yeah, so we touched on the career support that comes through the boot camps, and that's probably a really important component for you to kind of factor into this question too. So the course itself will teach you, as Dennis just said, it'll take you from either a beginner level, or it'll take kind of your current knowledge in your current industry and kind of teach you how to leverage that and put it together. But then once you've got that and you've got your capstone project finished, we put you in front of a room of people who are kind of in that space, so you can network, you can get direct feedback, and there's potentially, hopefully, some career opportunities for some of the students presenting in the pitch day and through the career support. So yeah, so that's just to kind of add to it there, that there's a large career component in the boot bootcamp that'll definitely support newbies. So, but I think that's it, guys. I just had a quick look here. I think that's all the questions that I can see in the questions tab. I'm just taking a quick look in the chat here. Yeah, Tam said thank you to you guys before she hopped off. And I see that she shared some of those links to the podcast while we were chatting. So yeah, but all of that aside, thank you to both of you, Max, Dennis. Your advice, your insight, your presentations today were amazing. As you can tell by the number of questions and the feedback that we're getting from the audience, obviously it was very well received. So I'd love to, well, Dennis, you're the course instructor, you'll be here, but Max, I'd love to have you back again in the future for another event. Like I said, your information was invaluable for the audience here. So without further ado, I can end it there. We're kind of right on the timeline here. I think I'd said about 90 minutes and we're about 10 minutes shy of that. So if anybody would like to, you're certainly welcome to look me up on LinkedIn. Just look Tyler Trapp and Circuit Stream and you'll find me. Max shared his contact information during his presentation. If you go back, you can kind of see his LinkedIn profile. And I think he had an additional website down there as well, linked in the bottom corner. If you guys want to, if you have the links handy, feel free to throw them into the chat here while I'm doing the close. But yeah, you can also reach out to Dennis on his LinkedIn. Connect with us. Let us know if you have any feedback from today's presentation. If you have any questions, we'll do our best to respond to LinkedIn messages. I know we talked about that earlier today, so we'll try and do our best to do that as well. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining this session. Stay tuned. You check out Circuit Stream's website for future events that we're going to be running. And we would love to see you all at those events as well. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great Thursday, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye.